Senator. Next Senator Michael McDowell. Senator, you have 10 minutes.
Clearly, I want to welcome the Minister here today, and I want to immediately say that at the heart of this, we do have to call, as Senator Garvey said, a spade a spade. There is an essential difference between migration and seeking international protection, and they are not the same thing. And they are, just as there are nasty people on the right in Ireland who are stoking up false fears about migrancy and general replacement of the Irish and the like on the one hand, there are people who see themselves as on the left who deliberately confuse the concepts of migration and asylum seeking and international protection seeking and claim that there is no essential difference between them. And Senator Garvey here has said that people have the right to come to Ireland to seek a better life. That's true up to a point, but it's untrue after that point. This state has a duty and a right and a moral obligation, especially in present circumstances, to have a coherent migration policy. That involves, for instance, the Minister has referred to it, and so has Senator Garvey, looking to our own needs, looking to the construction industry, looking to the fantastic work that is done by migrants in the health service, people who are indispensable to our way of life at the moment, and recognising that they are here lawfully and have come here lawfully, and that the state has received them in accordance with a controlled policy. And I, as a former Minister for Justice, am wholly aware of the difference between asylum seeking on the one hand and migration policy, work permits, and policies of that kind on the other hand. So I want to say at the very outset that there is a fundamental distinction between migration and asylum seeking. And the 1951 Convention on Refugees and the protocol attached to it was never intended by the signatory parties at any point during the decades when it was originally put in place to be a mechanism for mass migration across the world. That is the plain, unvarnished truth. And what has happened since then is that a wholly different world has emerged, where what was impossible in the 1950s for people who didn't have means, which is to travel halfway across the world and claim asylum in another country of their choice, is now possible. And even for those people for whom that is not even easy, such as people, say, coming from across the Sahara into North Africa and then seeking to cross the Mediterranean and then filtering through France and the other EU countries, Italy, Greece and the like, and coming to places such as Northern Europe. For those people for whom that is a huge trek, that in many cases is not a question of fleeing persecution or fleeing fleeing war. It is simply what Senator Garvey said. It is people seeking a better life. Now, there was a time until relatively recently here that the Georgian ambassador was almost a permanent fixture in this House, and he impressed upon me the need for Ireland to have a fair system of migrancy so that Georgians who wanted to work in the construction industry in Ireland, who would skilled people such as Senator Garvey referred to, plumbers, bricklayers, plasterers and the like, who could earn 10 times in Ireland what they could earn if they were lucky to be employed in Georgia, should be facilitated, since Ireland needed them and they wanted to come here. That's undoubtedly true. And I want to go on the record and say that the health service simply could not function without migrants, simply could not function for a day without migrants. And I'm not just talking about the health service in state-owned hospitals and the like. I'm talking about carers, I'm talking about home carers, I'm talking about a whole load of different situations in which migration is absolutely essential to our way of life. So Where we are now is that we need to have a state policy which distinguishes between migration on the one hand for a better life, which is a perfectly reasonable aspiration for anyone, anywhere in the world, be they Irish people fleeing famine in the 19th century, or emigrants seeking employment from Ireland in the 20th and even into the 21st century. The simple fact is that that is one phenomenon which is not covered by the refugee conventions. And the second fact that we have to acknowledge is that, the realities are that we are finding huge difficulties, and the Minister in his remarks has referred to them, in accommodating people who, under international law at the moment and under EU law, are entitled to reside here while their applications for international protection are examined. Huge problems, and the 10 cities along the canal and all of that bear witness to that. And I totally support the Ministry in one respect, and that is that the state should provide minimal, at least minimal, decent accommodation for those kind of people, and that it's not an easy task to repurpose lands, buildings and the like to achieve that, and that there will be local opposition, most of which is based on considerations of fear and apprehension about the nature and future of their local communities if large numbers of people are accommodated in single centres in particular locations. I understand those fears, but I also understand that the state must live up to its current international obligations. My point is this, that the Minister has spoken about the volume of international protection applicants being in the range of 20 to 30,000 a year, and in Ireland in the future. And we're not going to be in a position, and the Migration Pact, I believe, is a great illusion. We're not going to be in the position to turn them around in 3 months and send the great majority, or even a working majority of them, home by deportation flights. I was a minister. I tried to organise deportation flights. I know what's involved, and I know how difficult and how futile that kind of approach actually is. The simple fact is that we're also faced with a situation that the Minister's colleague, the Minister for Justice, has told a committee of this House that she believes that 80% of asylum applicants or international protection applicants in Ireland are coming here via the United Kingdom. Now, I mean, we have to wise up and see, why is that? Why are they coming here rather than remaining in the United Kingdom? Why are they more likely to receive a more understanding approach here than in the United Kingdom? And now that Keir Starmer and his party have been elected with such a huge majority in Westminster and are intent on achieving the entirely sensible policy goal of reversing Rwanda, at least that which is bound to be an obstacle to any deportation of any asylum seeker or international protection applicant in Ireland to the United Kingdom will disappear. But we do have to ask ourselves, what is it about this island that 80% of the people coming here would have travelled through our neighbouring democracy? What is it about us that is bringing that situation about, especially when we cannot accommodate them? Especially when, no matter what the Minister does, he simply cannot provide non-tented facilities for these people. We have to ask ourselves some fundamental questions. And the most fundamental question, and I'll end on this note, is that the European Union has, through its Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, pinned itself to the 1951 Convention and pinned itself to the proposition that that remains a cornerstone of European law. I believe the problem remains in Europe, that we have to wise up to the fact that those conventions are no longer fit for purpose in the world in which we live, the world of mass transit, the world of hugely sophisticated rights given through to applicants in courts, massive legal openings for contesting decisions in relation to the massive delays and the like, and the right of family reunification, which has been extended so broadly. All of these things suggest to me, and I'll finish on this, Kulik, all of these suggest to me that in Europe, the problem is that they are not calling a spade, and that Ireland is in consequence, failing to deal with a migration problem masked in large measure as an international protection seeking problem, and that unless Europe changes its fundamental policies, we are, in my view, going to fail to deal with what will be an increasingly socially divisive phenomenon. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Next, Senator.